new license mechanism. We've already got questions from clients, so I hope this one will make everything clear. WinDriver works in a way that, or used to work before 16.4, where after purchasing the subscription to WinDriver, you got two separated license strings. One is the development license and one the distribution license. The development license was bound to your development PC, and the distribution license was not bound to any PC. The development license had an expiry date, and the distribution license did not have an expiry date. And every time you wanted to upgrade a WinDriver version, add the device, extend the expiry date, each time you had to submit a request and get a new string, right? So it needed to be constantly updated. Again, something you wanted to go from WinDriver 16.0 to 16.1, new licenses, and it needed to be constantly updated and require changes in the distribution code, because these are two. Even if you are not upgrading, if you have only one string, when creating the distribution package, you had to rename the driver name in the code right here in the default driver name, and add the license string of the distribution license, because this one is not bound to a particular PC. So if you already used WinDriver, this should be totally clear, and this is the old method, which if we compare it to the new method, it has more steps. So let's talk about the new method. In the new method, we have an online license. So what does it mean? First of all, it means that the license requires internet connection. Okay, it sends a request to our server, and the whole verification process does not take place only in the machine, in the host, but it communicates with our license server, and it verifies the authenticity, the feature it has, and anything else. So there are a few benefits for this license. First of all, you get one license string for both purposes, for both distribution and development. Okay, so there is no need to replace the string either on the code and not in other cases, which we will talk about. It is easier to operate. Okay, it is shorter. Even if you have a license that includes multiple VPIDs or APIs, then you know the string can be quite long. There is no need to change it, okay, whatsoever. There is no need to change the license, not only when change it from development purpose to distribution purpose, but also when you want to add services. If you want to extend the duration of your development license, you don't need to ask for a new string, okay? It happens automatically in the server. If you want to add APIs, upgrade or downgrade WinDriver version up to 16.4, no need to change the license, adding VPIDs, and you're starting to get it. So there is no need to change the license, which is a huge plus. All you need to do is talk to us, and we will perform the changes on the server. Okay, so it is much easier to operate. However, it is requiring an internet connection in both cases. Okay, both development purposes and distribution purposes. I will take the questions after finishing this part. For development purposes, okay, so we know that the development license is bound to the development machine registration code, right? If you ever used WinDriver, you know that. And now we've added a MAC address. So when you send the license request, we would require both registration code, as usual, and the MAC address, okay, of your PC. Now there may be, I will talk about troubleshooting soon, but all we need to do is register the MAC address in the server license, okay? So we will ask you to send it to us. And as I said, it requires internet connection for both development and distribution. For distribution purposes, you don't need to register the registration code or MAC address, okay? But you will need an online connection, an internet connection. So in the old method, you had an offline evaluation license, and you got two strings, offline development and offline distribution. In the new method, you have an online evaluation license. You've probably seen it when installing WinDriver 16.4, and you get one string, okay, the same string, an online license after subscribing or purchasing a subscription for development purpose and distribution purpose. The distribution or for development purpose, the online license activates the wizard. It is bound to both registration code and MAC address, and it requires an internet connection. The distribution purpose requires internet connection as well. However, it will not activate the wizard, okay, in a computer that we don't have its registration code or MAC address. So you don't need to send us the MAC address of all your distributions. This is not the case. You can simply install it. However, we would need your MAC address of the development machine. Now I'm getting a question here. What will happen if working environment does not have an internet connection? So we still have offline licenses for 16.4. However, we want to move forward to the new model, and it have multiple applications. It's not just the conveniency or our need, I don't know, to verify the license with our server and not on-prem. So we can send you offline licenses for both development purpose and distribution purpose. For example, if you have a medical device and you distribute it to hospitals, which does not have an internet connection, we can send an offline distribution license, okay, with an online development license, and we can generate offline development license as well. So if you have complexity or issues with this online thing, talk to us, okay? Send us an email. Our account managers will talk to you and we will find a solution together. But from 16.4, this is the method, the new method of the online license. The older version of WinDriver are still available, however, not supported. Okay, so if you have an issue, let's say on 16.2 or 16.3, we will ask you to upgrade, because not only the licensing mechanism has been upgraded or changed, but other things as well in the product. But again, there is a solution for everything. If you find it, if you think it won't work with your distribution model or development model, talk to us. And I believe we will figure it out. So this is for how it is going to work in 16.4 up. Now let's talk about what can go wrong. So if we enter the license to the wizard and we get this error, you have entered an invalid license string, we need to check a few things, okay? So the first thing I would recommend is working with the WD debug open. Again, if you work with WinDriver, you probably know it. You have an icon in the wizard where you can see exactly what went wrong. you can see exactly what went wrong. So send us the logs and we can troubleshoot it together. And a lot of time it would be self-explanatory. The first thing we would suggest is verifying the MAC address. So you probably have more than one MAC address on your computer. And if you sent us the license while you connected to the internet cable, and then you changed, let's say, to Bluetooth in order to go online, then the MAC address has changed because it's a different device. All you would need to do is send us the new MAC address. How can you find it? Here, both in when writing ipconfig all in Windows or ifconfig a on Linux, you can see all the internet gateways on your PC. And the ones who has a connection-specific DNS suffix is the one you are currently using. So send us the physical address, the MAC address, or you can find it in the WD debug log. This is the current one. So again, if you get this error, you can open the WD debug and see if this one matches the MAC address you sent us when requesting the license. If it's a different one, just send this one, this MAC address to us, and we will enable it. Because we understand that there may be more than one MAC address on your PC. There's a question here. So the question is the offline distribution license, which will be required for systems in hospitals, for example, more or less cumbersome to manage than the old method? So it would be essentially the same or even easier. What do I mean by that? You don't need to change the string on your code, so that's easier. And in previous versions of WinDriver, if you've created a distribution package with, let's say, 16.0 and then upgraded to 16.1, you had to change the license string, right, in the distribution package. In this case, you won't need to change the license because we will extend the versions supported by this license online. So it would be easier to manage these new licenses. This is why we've done that. We understand that working with strings is a little, let's say, old-fashioned. And if we can make your life easier with easier verification process by connecting it to a server, then we should do it. So this is the story with the new online license. If you have, oh, just a second, I just understand the last question. The offline distribution license would be the same. Okay, when we're talking about offline distribution, the procedure would be the same. You're getting an offline license; it has no expiry date, and if you change your version, you would need to change the license string as well, because it is not connected to the internet. So it would be bound to a particular version and VPID, etc. So in these terms, it would be the same because, again, offline is offline. Now, one major thing, especially if you're upgrading from older versions of WinDriver that you should know, is the WD agent. Okay, it's a new function. You can see it here. And what does that mean? What I'm going to talk about is only if you're using WinDriver's low-level API. Okay, if you're using WinDriver's code from older versions of WinDriver, then you're probably running this routine. Okay, by calling WD open and WD license, you have this opening routine and closing routine. If you are using WDC driver open, which is the default in WinDriver's last versions, the WDC high-level function driver open, you don't need to do anything, whether if you're using an online license or offline license. However, if you are using an online license with a low-level API, you would need to add the agent start function and agent close function. These functions allows validating the license string in the running WinDriver best process. Okay, so if you want it to work, and again, only when using WinDriver lower level API, you need to call this function right after calling WDC license. And if it returns WD more processing required, then you're probably you're not calling the agent. So these are the parameters. This is available on our documentation. And of course, close the agent. Like you're using WD close, then WD agent close. So here we have the code snippet. It is available on our documentation in our PC. And again, you need to call it only when you're using a low-level API. If you are using high-level API, you don't need to do anything. Because when you are using the high-level API, WDC driver open is already calling WD agent start, okay? And the WDC driver close closes it. So you do not need to change anything when using the high-level API. And this concept is regarding anything. Like we recommend working with the high-level API because this API is much more advanced, much more. It makes your life easier. It's around 50% less code lines, and it includes many more functionalities. So this one is again only if you're using a low-level API and you want to use the online license.